Amelia Zimmerman gripped the wooden railing of her father's general store porch, her knuckles white with determination as she watched another wagon train roll through their dusty little town of Promise Creek, Colorado. It was 1875, and while most 20-year-old women in town dreamed of marriage and homemaking, Amelia dreamed of something that made the townsfolk scoff and shake their heads. She wanted to build her own stagecoach line. "There she goes again," Mrs. Pendleton whispered loudly to Mrs. Finch as they exited the store with their parcels. "Staring off like she's seeing something the rest of us can't. Head full of nonsense, that one." Amelia pretended not to hear, though the words stung like they always did. Ever since her mother had passed 5 years ago, she'd been helping her father run the store, keeping the books and ordering supplies. She had a head for numbers that surprised even the bank manager, but that wasn't enough. Amelia wanted more than just a ledger to manage. She wanted routes and schedules and connections across the territory. "Amelia," her father called from inside, "need your help with these flour sacks." With one last glance at the departing wagons, she turned and went back inside, pushing her dreams down deep where they couldn't be laughed at. Later that afternoon, the bell above the door jingled, and Amelia looked up from her counting to see a tall figure silhouetted against the bright sunshine. As he stepped inside, removing his hat, she noted his rugged appearance trail dust on his boots, a tan that spoke of long days in the saddle, and eyes the color of a summer sky. "Afternoon, miss," he said, his voice carrying a slight Texas drawl. "Just rode into town. Looking for a few supplies and maybe some information." "Welcome to Zimmerman's General Store," she replied with a polite smile. "I'm Amelia Zimmerman. What sort of supplies do you need?" "Isaac Vance," he introduced himself with a slight bow of his head. "Coffee, ammunition, jerky, the usual trail fare. As for information, I'm looking for work. Heard there might be opportunities around here." Amelia pulled the items as he listed them. "What kind of work are you seeking, Mr. Vance?" "I've been a cattle driver, done some ranch work, but my specialty is horses, training them, caring for them. I was the lead driver for the Butterfield line for 2 years before they shut down the route I was on." Amelia nearly dropped the coffee tin. "You drove for Butterfield?" "The stagecoach line." Something in her voice must have revealed her interest because Isaac's eyes lit up with curiosity. "Yes, madam. 3 runs a week between Santa Fe and Denver. Why do you ask?" Before she could answer, her father emerged from the back room. "Amelia, did you finish? Hello there, stranger. Pa, this is Mr. Vance. He's looking for work. He used to drive for Butterfield." George Zimmerman shook Isaac's hand. "Well, we don't have much call for stagecoach drivers here in Promise Creek, but old man Sullivan over at the livery might need help. He's getting on in years." "Thank you, sir. I'll check in with him." Isaac paid for his supplies, his eyes lingering on Amelia. "Miss Zimmerman, would you happen to know of any place I might get a decent meal and a room?" "Mrs. Parker runs a boarding house on Elm Street," she replied. "And the Pioneer Cafe across the street serves good food." "Much obliged." He tipped his hat and left, but not before giving her a smile that made something flutter in her chest. That evening at dinner, Amelia couldn't stop thinking about Isaac Vance, not just because of his handsome face and kind eyes, but because he represented a connection to the world she dreamed of. "Pa," she began cautiously, "do you think Promise Creek could support a stagecoach line? I mean, with all the settlers coming through and the silver mines opening up in the mountains." Her father sighed. "Not this again, Amelia. We've talked about this. Stagecoach lines require massive investment stations every 15 miles, dozens of horses, coaches, drivers, guards. It's not something a young woman can just start up." "But what if someone who knew the business helped me? Someone with experience. George put down his fork. Is this about that drifter who came in today? Amelia, you don't even know him. And besides, no bank would loan that kind of money to a woman, especially not for such a risky venture. The railroad is still years away from reaching us, Pa. People need reliable transportation now. People have wagons, Amelia. They get by. Now finish your dinner and let's not speak of this nonsense again. 2 days later, Amelia was inventorying stock when Isaac Vance returned to the store. He looked fresher than before, having clearly taken advantage of a bath and a bed. "Miss Zimmerman, good day to you," he greeted her. "I wanted to thank you for the recommendation. Mr. Sullivan has indeed hired me to help at the livery." "That's wonderful news, Mr. Vance. Will you be staying in Promise Creek then, for a while at least? It's a nice town, growing fast." He looked around to ensure they were alone, then leaned in slightly. "I couldn't help but notice your interest when I mentioned Butterfield. You seemed excited." Amelia hesitated, then decided to take a chance. "I've had this idea for a while now. I believe Promise Creek could be a hub for a regional stagecoach line. We're perfectly positioned between several growing settlements and the mines." Instead of laughing as others had, Isaac nodded thoughtfully. "The terrain's challenging, but doable with the right routes. You'd need at least 6 coaches to start, probably 20 to 30 horses per station depending on the distances." Amelia's eyes widened. "You've actually thought about this?" "It's what I know, Miss Zimmerman. Been on both sides driving and planning routes. Your idea isn't crazy. Ambitious, yes, but not impossible." For the first time, someone was taking her seriously. "Everyone else thinks I'm foolish for even considering it. A woman has no business in transportation, they say." Isaac shrugged. "Wells Fargo was co-founded by a woman who helped run it for years. Most folks just don't know their history." He paused. "Would you like to hear more about how a stagecoach operation works? Perhaps over coffee sometime." Amelia felt a smile bloom across her face. "I would like that very much, Mr. Vance." Over the next few weeks, Amelia and Isaac met regularly at the cafe, their table covered with maps and notes. He explained the intricacies of stagecoach operations while she identified potential routes and calculated costs. What started as business discussions soon evolved into something more personal, as they shared stories of their lives. Isaac had lost his parents to cholera as a teenager and had been on his own since, working his way from stable boy to driver to route manager. Amelia told him about losing her mother, about the responsibility of helping her father with the store while harboring dreams that seemed impossible. "Why stagecoaches?" he asked one evening. "Of all the businesses you could dream of, why this one?" Amelia smiled, remembering. "When I was 12, my mother and I took a stagecoach to visit her sister in Denver. I was fascinated by everything: the driver's skill, the changing of horses, the way stations appeared just when needed. But mostly, I loved how it connected people. Letters, packages, travelers all carried from one place to another, bringing news and joy and opportunity. I want to be part of that." Isaac's eyes softened. "That's a beautiful reason." One Saturday afternoon, as they walked along the creek that gave the town its name, Isaac stopped suddenly. "Amelia, I've been thinking. Your plan is solid. The routes make sense. Your cost projections are conservative but realistic. The only thing missing is practical experience and capital." "Which I'll never get because no one takes me seriously," she said, disappointment evident in her voice. "I take you seriously," he replied, taking her hand. "And I have an idea. Sullivan mentioned that Judge Warren is looking to sell his property south of town. It's got a large barn, good water, perfect for a stage station. If we could secure that as a starting point." Amelia's heart skipped a beat. I believe in your vision, Amelia. I'd like to be part of it if you'll have me. I have some savings, not enough for the whole operation, but maybe enough for a down payment on the property." She stared at him, hardly daring to believe. "Isaac, are you proposing a business partnership?" His blue eyes held her steadily. "For starters, though I must admit, my feelings for you have grown beyond business interests." Amelia felt heat rise to her cheeks, mine as well. He squeezed her hand gently. "Then perhaps we can build this dream together." The following week, they approached the bank together. Mr. Caldwell, the manager, listened to their proposal with increasing skepticism. A stagecoach line, started by a shopkeeper's daughter and a drifter. He shook his head. "Miss Zimmerman, I've known you since you were a child. You're a sensible girl. This venture would ruin you financially before it ever turned a profit." "With all due respect, Mr. Caldwell," Isaac interjected, "I've worked for Butterfield and know the business inside and out. We've done the calculations. With the mines expanding and 3 new settlements within 50 miles, the demand exists. Perhaps, but the risk is too great. I cannot in good conscience approve such a loan." As they left the bank, Amelia fought back tears of frustration. Now what? Without financing, we can't even begin. Isaac looked thoughtful. "There's more than one way to start a business. Let's talk to Judge Warren directly about the property. Maybe he'd consider a payment arrangement." Judge Warren, a practical man in his 60s with an arthritic hip that kept him from maintaining his property, was more receptive than the banker had been. "A stagecoach station, eh?" He stroked his white beard. "Interesting proposition. The barn would serve well as a stable and the house could accommodate travelers in a pinch." "We believe it's the perfect location," Amelia said eagerly. "Close enough to town but with enough space for operations." The judge studied them. "Miss Zimmerman, I've watched you grow up. Always had a good head on your shoulders. And you, Mr. Vance Sullivan, speaks highly of your work ethic and knowledge of horses." He tapped his fingers on his desk. "I'll tell you what. I'll sell you the property on credit with quarterly payments over 5 years, plus interest. But I want a contract that gives me preferred transportation for my court circuit once you're operational." Amelia could hardly believe her ears. "You mean, you'll do it, without the bank's approval?" "Young lady, I've been around long enough to recognize determination when I see it. Besides, this town could use the commerce a stagecoach line would bring." As they left the judge's office with a preliminary agreement in hand, Isaac lifted Amelia off her feet and spun her around, both of them laughing with joy. "We did it. We actually did it," she exclaimed. "This is just the beginning," Isaac said, setting her down but keeping his arms around her waist. "We still need coaches, horses, and more funding. But we have a start. A real start." The news spread quickly through Promise Creek. Most folks reacted with disbelief, some with outright mockery. "That Zimmerman girl's lost her mind," Howard Jenkins, the saloon owner, declared loudly. "Playing at business like it's a child's game, and that Vance fella's just humoring her to get close to her father's store." Such comments reached Amelia's ears, of course, but for the first time, she didn't let them bother her. She had a partner who believed in her, a property secured, and a plan taking shape. Even her father, initially skeptical, began to see the potential when she showed him their detailed business proposal. "I still think it's risky," George Zimmerman admitted, "but you've clearly put more thought into this than I realized, and Vance seems to know his business." "He does, Pa. And he believes in me." Her father studied her face. "He's sweet on you too, isn't he?" Amelia blushed. "I believe he is, and I care for him as well," George sighed. "Just be careful, daughter, with both your heart and your savings." Over the next 3 months, Isaac and Amelia worked tirelessly. They moved into the separate buildings on Judge Warren's property, Isaac in the small caretaker's cabin and Amelia in the main house, which they began converting into a station office and waiting area. They hired 2 local men to help renovate the barn into proper stables. Word of their endeavor spread beyond Promise Creek. One day, a representative from the Rocky Mountain Mining Consortium arrived. "Miss Zimmerman, Mr. Vance." The man introduced himself as Edward Bentley. "My employers are interested in your stagecoach venture. We have several mining operations that require regular transportation of personnel and small shipments. The railroad is still years away from reaching our more remote sites. We'd be happy to discuss a contract," Amelia said, trying to contain her excitement. "Before we get to that, I should tell you that my employers are prepared to invest in your company. They'd provide enough capital for you to purchase coaches and horses in exchange for a 20% share and guaranteed service to our locations." Isaac and Amelia exchanged looks of astonishment. This was beyond anything they'd hoped for. "We'd need to review the details," Isaac said cautiously, "but we're definitely interested." With the mining consortium's investment, Zimmerman and Vance stage line became a reality faster than either of them had anticipated. They purchased 4 coaches, 2 in Denver and 2 from a retiring operator in Santa Fe. Isaac personally selected 30 horses, with plans to acquire more as they expanded. Through it all, their relationship deepened. Working side by side from dawn until dusk, they discovered a harmony in their partnership that extended beyond business. Isaac's practical experience complemented Amelia's organizational skills and financial acumen. His quiet strength supported her innovative ideas. Her enthusiasm rekindled his passion for the stagecoach business. One evening, as they sat on the porch of the station house, reviewing the schedule for their inaugural run the following week, Isaac took Amelia's hand. "When I rode into Promise Creek 3 months ago, I never imagined I'd find a partner like you in business or in life." Amelia squeezed his hand. "I never imagined anyone would take my dreams seriously. You didn't just believe in them, you helped make them real." "There's something I need to tell you," he said, suddenly serious. "Before we launch the business, before we go any further." Amelia felt a flutter of anxiety. "What is it? Remember when I told you I worked for Butterfield? That wasn't the whole truth." He took a deep breath. "I didn't just drive for them. My uncle was a regional manager. When he died 2 years ago, he left me his shares in the company." Amelia stared at him. "You own part of Butterfield Overland Mail Company?" "A small part, yes. Not enough to have any real say in operations, but enough that I receive quarterly dividends. That's where my investment money came from." "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Isaac looked away. "When I first met you and heard your passion for starting a stagecoach line, I wanted to help because I believed in your vision, not because of my connection to Butterfield. I was afraid if you knew, you might think I was trying to take over your dream or that I didn't take you seriously." Amelia was quiet for a moment, processing this revelation. "So you're actually experienced in the business side as well as the practical operations?" "Yes. I've sat in on board meetings, reviewed financial statements. My uncle was grooming me to follow in his footsteps before he passed." To his surprise, Amelia laughed. "Isaac Vance, you realize what this means? We're even better positioned for success than I thought. With your industry connections and insider knowledge, we can avoid the pitfalls that sink most new transportation ventures." Relief washed over his face. "You're not angry that I kept this from you. I understand why you did." She moved closer to him on the bench. "You wanted me to feel that this was still my dream, my company, and it's ours. We're building it together." He cupped her cheek gently. "Amelia Zimmerman, I love you." Your determination, your intelligence, your heart, everything about you. I came to Promise Creek looking for work and found my future instead. I love you too, she whispered, for believing in me when no one else would. Their first kiss was sweet and promising, like the business they were building, tentative at first, then growing in confidence and passion. The inaugural run of the Zimmerman and Vance stage line took place on a crisp autumn morning in 1875. The entire town of Promise Creek turned out to witness the event, even those who had scoffed at the idea. The freshly painted coach gleamed in the morning sun, the company name emblazoned on its side in bold letters. 4 matched bay horses stamped impatiently in their harnesses. Isaac would drive this first run himself, with Jonathan Miller, a former cavalry soldier, riding shotgun. The route would take them to Silver Peak, one of the mining towns, then loop through 2 farming settlements before returning to Promise Creek 3 days later. Amelia, dressed in a new blue dress that matched her eyes, supervised the loading of mail bags and parcels. 5 passengers waited to board, including Judge Warren and Mr. Bentley from the mining consortium. Just before departure, Isaac pulled Amelia aside. Everything's ready. You've done an amazing job organizing this. We did it together, she reminded him. Safe journey. He pressed something into her hand. I was going to wait until I got back, but I want you to have this now. Amelia opened her palm to find a small velvet box. Her breath caught as she opened it to reveal a ring with a modest diamond flanked by 2 sapphires. Isaac. Marry me, Amelia, be my partner in every way. Tears welled in her eyes. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Their kiss was interrupted by cheers and applause. The waiting passengers and townspeople had witnessed the proposal. Even Howard Jenkins from the saloon tipped his hat in grudging respect. All aboard, Isaac called out, helping the passengers into the coach before climbing up to the driver's seat. He looked down at Amelia, radiant with happiness. See you in 3 days, future Mrs. Vance. I'll be waiting right here, she promised, with expansion plans ready for your review. As the coach pulled away with Isaac handling the reins masterfully, the crowd cheered again. Amelia's father came to stand beside her, putting an arm around her shoulders. I was wrong to doubt you, he admitted. You've accomplished something remarkable here. It's just the beginning, Pa. She watched the coach until it disappeared around the bend, her heart full of pride and love. We're going to connect towns all across the territory. People, goods, mail, bringing communities together. And to think folks laughed at your dreams, George said, shaking his head. Not anymore, they won't. Amelia smiled, touching the ring on her finger. Some dreams just need the right partner to help build them into reality. Over the next 5 years, the Zimmerman and Vance stage line grew beyond even Amelia's ambitious plans. What began with 1 route and 4 coaches expanded to a network covering most of western Colorado, with 28 coaches and over 200 horses. They established 12 stations at strategic points, creating jobs for dozens of drivers, guards, and station managers. Isaac and Amelia married 6 months after that first run, in a ceremony attended by nearly everyone in Promise Creek. They lived in the expanded station house, which served as both their home and the company headquarters. Their reputation for reliability and fair prices spread, earning them contracts with not only the mining consortium, but also the territorial government for mail delivery. The success wasn't without challenges. They weathered attempted robberies, harsh winters that made routes impassable, and competition from smaller operators. But through it all, their partnership remained strong in business and in love. In 1880, they welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Catherine, after Amelia's mother. Little Kate, as they called her, grew up surrounded by the sights and sounds of the stagecoach business, often sitting on her father's lap as he reviewed route maps or riding with her mother to inspect stations. On the 5th anniversary of the company's founding, the citizens of Promise Creek organized a celebration in the town square. Banners hung from buildings, and tables groaned under the weight of food and drink. All 4 of the original coaches were displayed, along with several newer ones, freshly painted and decorated with flowers. As Amelia stood with Isaac and little Kate, watching the festivities, Mrs. Pendleton, who had once whispered about Amelia's nonsense dreams, approached them. "Mrs. Vance," she said, using Amelia's married name, "I owe you an apology. Many of us doubted you, said unkind things, but look what you've built." She gestured to the coaches, the employees in their company uniforms, the station that had helped transform Promise Creek into a bustling hub of commerce. "You've brought prosperity to our town and connected us to the wider world." "Thank you, Mrs. Pendleton," Amelia replied graciously. "But I didn't do it alone." She looked at Isaac, who bounced their daughter in his arms. "I had someone who believed in me, who helped turn a dream into reality." Later that night, after putting Kate to bed, Amelia and Isaac stood on their porch, looking out at the station yard where their coaches rested, ready for the next day's journeys. "You ever think about how differently things might have turned out?" Amelia asked, leaning against her husband's chest. "If you hadn't walked into the store that day," Isaac wrapped his arms around her. "I believe some things are meant to be. I was searching for something without knowing what it was. You had a dream but needed someone to help build it." He kissed the top of her head. "We found each other at exactly the right moment and built something greater than either of us could have alone. The best partnerships are like that," he said, "in business and in life." As they stood there in the moonlight, the sound of a distant coach returning from its run reached their ears, the rhythmic hoofbeats and the creak of wheels that had become the soundtrack of their lives. It was the sound of connection, of dreams realized, of a love that had overcome doubt and distance to create something lasting. Amelia Zimmerman Vance, once laughed at for her dreams, now stood at the heart of the thriving enterprise she had envisioned. With Isaac by her side, she had proven that with determination, knowledge, and the right partner, even the most ambitious dreams could become reality. And as the coach rolled into the station yard, right on schedule, she knew that their journey together was far from over. There would be new routes to establish, challenges to overcome, moments of joy to celebrate, all part of the continuing adventure they were building together, 1 mile at a time.